Ballots are cast. Your votes now being counted.
As two leaders with long political histories ask for another chance to lead this province.
My name is Rachel Notley, and I am running to be your premier.
So let's go out and knock some doors and win this.
After 29 days of promises and political punches.
You want to fight with Ottawa. You want to fight with the media. You want to fight, frankly, with your former self.
She doesn't want to run on her record. And the reason she doesn't want to run on her record is it was an absolute disaster.
We finally arrived at this moment. This is Decision Alberta.
Good evening, I'm Scott Roberts from Global Edmonton.
And I'm Linda Olson from Global Calgary. Welcome to our special province-wide election coverage, Decision Alberta.
It has been a neck-and-neck race between the two leaders trying to turn the page on their political legacies. But tonight, it is Albertans who will have the final say on whether it will be Danielle Smith of the UCP or Rachel Notley and the NDP forming government.
The polls have just closed, and we are expecting the first results in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
And you can count on us to bring you all the results and analysis wherever you're watching or listening. We are following the developments as they happen from party headquarters to key ridings.
Our coverage tonight spans the province and across all platforms, on television, on Chorus Radio, and on globalnews.ca.
As we look forward to tonight's results, let's take a look back at how we got to this head-to-head battle. In the right corner, UCP leader Danielle Smith, and on the left, NDP leader Rachel Notley. Let's start with Smith, who took her first run at the premier's job back in 2012 as leader of the Wild Rose Party. For a time, the polls looked good, but she suffered a crushing defeat to the PC's Alison Redford.
Well, folks, tonight we found out that change might take a little longer than we thought.
2 years later, a political shocker with Smith crossing the floor to join the Progressive Conservatives, a party that she had sparred with for years. But the move was actually a blow to her own political career. Months later, she lost her own riding nomination and bowed out of politics for the time being.
We got Barry on the line. Barry, go ahead. Your thoughts today.
She pivoted to talk radio instead and stayed at broadcasting until 2021 when she left Chorus Entertainment, the parent company of Global News. It wasn't long until she signaled her desire to jump back into the political ring, and the door swung wide.
Our panel tonight, and they're going to help walk us through all the analysis throughout the evening.
It'll be fun to hear from them. All right, we have our first results actually coming in right now. We hit it right on the nose, 8:15. We mentioned we would likely have our first numbers, and there you have it. The UCP is leading in one riding at this point. And we are going to go to Safe Kaiser now, who is live at NDP headquarters. Safe, you've got a special guest with you right now who is well known in the NDP ranks, for sure.
Absolutely, Scott. Linda, I'm here with Cheryl Oates. She's the Deputy Campaign Director for Rachel Notley, an advisor of hers. Cheryl, you know, we've been seeing you guys hustling for the last several months, especially in the last 30 days here. What really was the strategy of your campaign to get those seats you need?
Well, a couple of things. One was a really clear offer to Albertans that would solve the problems that they've been talking about. So fixing healthcare, making sure that every Albertan had a family doctor, making life more affordable by getting bills under control, and laying out a costed plan to build an economy of the future. That was really, really important to Albertans to hear that plan. And then secondly, we really got a lot of support from volunteers. We had more identified support, more funds raised, more lawn signs, more volunteers turn out than we have in any other election, and they are the reason that we are going to be so successful tonight.
Right, and you know, when it really comes down to the math, I'm not really good at math, but you know, at the end of the day, Edmonton seems like a pretty safe bet for the NDP. If you get 4 in the donut, I believe you need about 17 seats in Calgary. Do you feel like your message resonated with Calgarians?
Absolutely, and I think your math is pretty close. We are looking at winning the majority of seats in Calgary tonight, and that was evidenced in the number of times, which was basically every day, that we had people come up to Rachel and come up to our teams and say, I have never voted NDP before. I've been a Conservative voter my entire life, and this time, in this election, I'm voting NDP because they are the party representing mainstream Alberta values. And that momentum has built from day one of this campaign and before it all through until E-night, and we're feeling really great about that tonight.
Thanks. That's Cheryl Oates. She's the Deputy Campaign Director for Rachel Notley, a Senior Advisor. Scott, Linda, back to you.
All right, Steve Kaiser live at NDP headquarters in Edmonton as we continue to watch the bottom of the screen here. This is the seat count right now, and it is going to continue to change throughout the course of the night. Right now, we have the UCP leading in 3 seats, 0 for the NDP at this point.
We'll go to David Aiken now to take a closer look at where those ridings are that are starting to pull ahead. David?
That's right. So we've got 2 in traditional UCP territory, 1 in sort of traditional. I thought we had 1 there. Anyways, there we go. Let's start with Peace River, way up north. Peace River right now, Dan Williams for the UCP. He has an 11-vote lead. That's all. Very early, just 3 polls reporting. UCP, Dan Williams in the lead in Peace River. Liana Pava is, for the New Democrats, is in second. Then, just outside of Edmonton, just to the west of Edmonton, Drayton Valley, Devon, Andrew Boychenko has a 17-vote lead over Harry Singh of the NDP, and we have 2 polls reporting right now. While we're in Drayton Valley, Devon, I want to zoom in on one thing. This is a really interesting little change for Elections Alberta this time. Do you see this corner up here? It says 2 polls of 38 reporting. You know what? There's been a change in the way the polls work. In Drayton Valley in 2019, there were 103 polls. There's only 38 polls here. Why does that make a difference for us as we're reporting the results? Because it means in a poll, there's now more votes per poll. It takes longer to count them. So if you were in a church basement last time around, you know, there's all those boxes. Each one of those boxes was a poll. It get counted pretty quick. But now that church basement, it's one big poll. It takes a while to count those ballots and to get them back here. Let's take one more look. I think we have one result down in Calgary. Look at this. I don't think this is going to happen all night long, but in Calgary, Buffalo, right now, with 1 vote in, Astrid Kuhn has a 1-vote lead over Joe Ceci. Hey, 1 vote or 1,000 votes, you're still in the lead. 1 poll reporting Astrid Kuhn over Joe Ceci in Calgary, Buffalo. Calgary, Buffalo, and Calgary Mountain View, probably the safest NDP seats there. But good job, Astrid Kuhn. You've leapt out to a lead by 1 vote in Calgary, Buffalo. That's how sometimes these elections roll. Back to you on the desk.
All right, thanks, David. We will have all the numbers, even the small ones, for you here tonight. As we know, every vote counts in elections. Again, very early on in the night. Polls just closed about 19 minutes ago, so these numbers coming in slowly, but they will come in much quicker in a short time.
Yeah, we're going to go to Joel Senek now, who is at UCP headquarters in Calgary with Global's Mercedes Stevenson. Joel, an early lead for the UCP.
Yeah, an early lead and a couple of cheers we've heard so far from the crowd that is here in downtown Calgary. Obviously, this election important for Alberta, but across the country, people are watching it. So we're happy to have Global News Ottawa Bureau Chief Mercedes Stevenson here with us. What are the federal parties, Mercedes, looking to see tonight when it comes to the results of the Alberta election?
Well, they're certainly going to be curious about how close it is. And let's start with the government's perspective. They're looking at a 2025 election, but it could come sooner. So they're going to look at what is the support for the Conservatives here. The federal Conservatives are obviously different than the United Conservative Party here. However, there's some similarities in Danielle Smith's tone and Pierre Poilievre's tone. So they're going to be watching what does that look like if we potentially go up against him. They're also going to be looking to see what it means in terms of their interactions with Alberta. They will have a very different situation if they have Danielle Smith back as the Premier than if they have Rachel Notley, and what that means for them on energy, on politics, and on really the tone of politics. For the federal Conservatives, this is an interesting test as well. If they win, that's a good sign for the Conservatives. However, because Pierre Poilievre has endorsed Danielle Smith, some of those controversial things that she said could come back to haunt him, show up in Liberal attack ads. So they have a bit of sensitivity around that. And at the end of the day, they'll all tell you that, well, this is an interesting election to watch in what it says about polarization, politics, the right and left, and the way that they're choosing to behave. It is its own political ecosystem here. It's kind of like Quebec that way. It's not something you can simply transpose onto Ontario because Alberta is just such a unique province that way.
Yeah, I wanted to dig in on one thing you talked about there, the relationship between Alberta and Ottawa. And that could change tonight regardless of who wins. How could that be different from if the UCP are victorious versus the NDP?
So if the UCP wins, what I'm looking for is to see if Danielle Smith brings back the Sovereignty Act in force. It has been passed, but she's gone very quiet about it. Is she going to start to challenge things like the RCMP on collecting firearms or the federal government when it comes to emissions targets? That's a much tougher road in some ways for Justin Trudeau because he's up against an adversary, but it also gives him someone to play off of. He likes a good debate. He kind of likes that conflict, and so it's not necessarily a bad thing for him if Danielle Smith is elected. Even though he's going to have more trouble getting his policies through, politically he benefits from being able to grandstand from that, just as Danielle Smith does. Now, if Rachel Notley gets in, it's obviously a friendlier relationship. However, do not confuse the federal NDP with the provincial NDP. Jagmeet Singh and Rachel Notley don't really like each other. They don't have similar platforms. They both think the other one is a risk to the NDP brand. But Rachel Notley would be easier for Justin Trudeau to get along with ideologically. However, her stance on emissions targets will be interesting to see how that plays out. She says she's for more oil and gas development. So how would she handle that relationship with the Prime Minister? And that would remain to be seen.
So many interesting threads here, not just in Alberta, but across the country. We're happy to have you here, Mercedes Stevenson.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Joel. And Mercedes Stevenson with some federal government perspective on what's happening here in Alberta. We heard a cheer go up there at UCP headquarters. Not sure if there's someone taking to the stage or if it's that we're seeing the numbers go. Now we have UCP leading in 6 and 0 for NDP at the moment.
All right, 6-seat lead at the moment. Again, very early results coming in right now. Let's go back to David Aiken at the results board. David, what are you noticing as far as these numbers?
Yeah, it really is early, and Elections Alberta is using some new systems to count the votes and transmit the votes. And again, no one will have the results sooner than we will. Global News will have, nobody will have it sooner. Right, we've got 3 results now sort of in rural or small town Alberta. We have the UCP leading in Peace River. That's, of course, way up north. The UCP is leading in, pop it open, in central Peace Notley. That's Todd Loewen. UCP is leading in Drayton Valley, Devon. That is UCP heartland territory. We expect that those will likely carry through in the night. But let's pop in Calgary and watch this, folks. I think we have Jason Loewen has 1 vote, UCP ahead in Calgary Foothills. Just 1 vote has been counted, and it was for the UCP. And we do the same thing in Calgary Buffalo, where the UCP is up. 1 vote has been counted, and the UCP is ahead in Calgary Buffalo. And then here's Calgary Hayes. Rick McIver, 1 vote has been counted as well in Calgary Hayes. And we'll try and get an explanation. How can it be just 3 people have voted in Calgary? Well, of course, lots and lots of people voted in Calgary, and we're going to get those numbers as they came in. Rick McIver, by the way, he is the longest-serving conservative-ish, PC or conservative, whatever. Anyways, Rick McIver holds the longevity record on the blue team. Rachel Notley, first elected in 2008, holds the longest-term record for the orange team. Linda, Scott.
Thanks very much, David. A lesson right now, don't put too much stock in these very, very early numbers, as we just heard from David. Very few polls reporting at this point in time.
We're going to go now to Carol Ann Devaney, and who has a guest with us, Thomas Lukasik, who's been a vocal supporter of the NDP.
That's right. Look who I found, a conservative at NDP headquarters. That's interesting.
I suppose so, but nowadays anything's possible in Alberta.
Anything's possible, yeah. You are one of a handful of high-profile conservatives who have come out endorsing NDP candidates in local ridings. You said you are not an NDP.
No, and I probably never will be, but there are a number of us progressive conservatives who simply do not see ourselves within UCP. UCP no longer is a progressive conservative party, and there is no room for moderate thoughts, moderate platforms, and moderate vision of Alberta. So when you actually look at both of the leaders, Rachel and Danielle, by far we better fit within the NDP platform, and that is why looking at what they had to offer and at the stability that Rachel could possibly bring forward, for many of us, this wasn't a difficult choice. We had to support what's right for the province.
So was there one specific thing, or was it that made you switch, or was it sort of a gradual?
It's gradual. You know, I had the privilege of working across the aisle from Rachel and from Danielle, and I've seen them perform as leaders of their respective parties. And with Rachel, often I would disagree on matters of policy, but we had the same common values values, fundamental values in democracy and the rule of law, independence of courts, and what simply is right and wrong. That sort of feeling you get in your belly when you know. With Danielle, she simply was always all over the place. Some of the things that she would come up with or say made you wonder where she is getting her information and her ideas from. And this absence of those shared common values that we have in Alberta. So, I always applied the litmus test, whom would I leave my children with? And I would gladly leave my kids with Rachel, knowing that if something was to happen, she would take them to a doctor. With Danielle, she simply is scattered. She seems to be attracted to radical thoughts, and that is not the steady hand that this province needs right now.
So those progressive conservatives, or those conservatives in general, what do you think is keeping them with that party, and why are they voting? Why are they not switching like you?
You know what? After 44 years of same government, we developed politics of identity, and a lot of people say, I am a conservative, as if they were baptized a conservative. They almost see it as a religion. And instead of looking at platforms and who actually better reflects my personal values, they vote for party name and for the colors, because they see themselves as such, and they see it almost as treasonous to vote for something that better aligns with their personal values, but there is that politics of personality, and that has to change. We have to become more critical voters.
Okay, we'll leave it here, and we'll throw it back to the desk to Scott and Linda. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol Ann, with one of the conservative voices who has turned to the NDP. We want to welcome in our radio listeners as well and bring you up to date on the numbers on our screen. UCP leading in 10, NDP on the board now on your ticker with 2.
And we should tell our television viewers as well, the big story of the night certainly is right there at the bottom of the screen. Seat count, seat count, seat count. That's the big story of the night. But if you want to see results in your local area, we're going to cycle through all 87 ridings throughout the course of the night on the side of your screen. All right, let's go back to David Aiken now at the results board. David, you've got a little bit more information right now on why we're seeing just those 1 votes in a number of different ridings, especially down in Calgary.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing elections for 20 years. Never seen this happen before. It's really interesting. Let's take a look at Calgary again. You see all these little UCP are leading in, 5 or 6 ridings. There's Calgary Foothills, where Jason Luan has 1 vote. We talked about this before. Same thing next door in Northwest. Rajan Sawhney has 1 vote and is leading over the NDP. Calgary Varsity, Jason Copping has 1 vote. You're getting the picture. I could go on and on and on. What's happening here? Well, we just learned from Elections Alberta. Here's what's happening. Remember, you've got a vote anywhere system during advance voting. So if you live in Red Deer, but you were shopping at West Edmonton Mall, you could vote at West Edmonton Mall and it would count back in your Red Deer riding. Well, that's apparently what we're seeing here. 1 vote that was, in this case, cast for Jason Luan was cast outside the riding of Calgary Foothills, and this is Elections Alberta taking that vote and putting it into Calgary Foothills. So take everything you're seeing here with a grain of salt. There's something new, Calgary Fish Creek. Now, this is actually starting to look a little real. Calgary Fish Creek, the UCP candidate, Miles McDougall, he has 65 votes. The New Democrat, Rebecca Bouncel, has 35 votes. That's a 30-vote lead for the UCP. We have 2 polls reporting there. I want to pop in on the provincial capital, Edmonton. We've got a couple of results popping in and up, and the UCP right now are leading in 2 Edmonton ridings. But let's see if it's a 1-vote thing. Sure is. It's John Zadek, the Edmonton City Councilor, Edmonton Castle Downs. John Zadek has 1 vote, which is 1 more vote than Nicole Goring, the incumbent, has at this. Oh, pardon me. This is the tie. It's 1-1. It's like Oilers Flames sort of thing. I don't know who the Oilers and who the Flames are, but we got 1-1 up there in Castle Down. Edmonton City Centre, David Shepherd has 1 vote, and nobody else has any other votes. So this is the way Elections Alberta is doing at this time, where we're ending up with ridings with just 1 vote early on. So if you're looking at the ticker right now, if it might say UCP 14 and NDP 3, actually right now the UCP's got about 14 votes total, not just 14 seats. So we'll take it back to Scott and Linda on the desk.
All right, thanks very much, David. Every election has its quirks, and this year, obviously no different.
Yeah, and that's important perspective. I was one of those people, one of those Albertans who took advantage of the advance polls, and I went outside my riding just because it was convenient. So it's interesting to see how it's playing out tonight. We're going to go live now to our Joel Senek, who has the candidate for Calgary West, Cabinet Minister Mike Ellis, with him. Joel?
Yeah, Mike Ellis here with us. So we got some early results. How much stake do you put into the results that trickle in here right after the polls close?
I think as you've seen, Joel, I mean, we've had 1 and 0 or as high as 10 and 20. I think we need to see some more numbers coming in before we start getting excited about anything, quite frankly. But I will say, I mean, I am cautiously optimistic about tonight.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the mood behind the scenes amongst your colleagues tonight. How are they feeling?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, this is a great group of individuals. They all worked extremely hard, a very diverse group. I can tell you right now, no matter where you are in the province as far as a UCP candidate or volunteer, they all left it on the table. Very excited about the work they did.
If the UCP is going to be victorious tonight, what one thing do you think is going to make the difference in this race?
Well, that's a good question, Joel. I mean, I would say that there was a bit of a turning point, quite frankly, after the debate. We really saw it at the doors. We saw a support start to climb. And this was really exemplified at the rally where we saw nearly 2,000 people show up. And we had people organically showing up. People from Calgary West were showing up, just saying, I heard about this, wanted to show up and be a part of it. So very excited.
Candidate for Calgary West, former Cabinet Minister Mike Ellis, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joel.
One of the many ridings here in Calgary that we are watching tonight as, of course, Calgary battleground in this election. Back to you.
Thank you, Joel. And we are watching the numbers on our screen. UCP leading in 14 and NDP with 5. Again, we're waiting for a lot more numbers to come in. Those are low numbers to start out.
We certainly are. Let's go to our political panel now. And Dallas Flexhog in Calgary at UCP headquarters. Dallas, you guys are talking about the path to victory for both parties tonight.
Yes, Scott. Just before that, though, I can tell you every single vote is getting a cheer here down at UCP headquarters. And on the other side of that, we saw Thomas Lukaszuk pop up, former Conservative. That gathered some boos in the crowd, if that is giving you a sense of what it is like down here at UCP headquarters. And on this campaign trail, we did see a number of political endorsements. Thomas Lukaszuk, former Conservative, endorsing the NDP. Stephen Harper endorsing the UCP. Do these make a difference, Jason?
I think the impact of them is overstated. Maybe it moves 14 votes. Maybe it generates a few boos in rooms like this. But in terms of shifting the outcome, I think the impact is overstated. You even saw former Mayor of Calgary, Naheed Nenshi, lend his vote to Rachel Notley a couple of days before the votes. Their tactics, they're used in particular ways, but in terms of hanging your hat on them, we saw this happen in 2019 with a few Lougheed-era folks endorsing Rachel Notley. Didn't make much of a difference there. I suspect it's the same case here.
And we will be talking about the lend your vote idea throughout the night, I'm sure. Talking about the path to power, former Premier Ralph Klein called Alberta the three-legged stool. You've got Calgary, you've got Edmonton, and you've got everywhere else. We know Edmonton is projected to go orange. We know the rest of Alberta is projected to go blue. That leaves Calgary in the middle, and then that little donut around Edmonton. So what have each camp done to try and capture those votes this time around, Dwayne?
Well, I think the three-legged stool still applies, but they're not equal stools, right? It's a lopsided chair, because in Edmonton there's only 20 seats. Outside the major cities there's 41 seats, and there's 26 in Calgary. So if the NDP sweep Edmonton as expected, and the UCP win 30 to 35 seats outside the major cities, as expected, then coming into Calgary, the NDP's already down 10, 15 seats. So the math is really hard for them because the seats aren't equal.
Darren, you were a volunteer with the NDP campaign this time around, and you had a very targeted path to power. Can you talk about the tactics used?
Yeah, for sure. So we ended up, first of all, we tried to get candidates out early, nominated, banging on doors. I can tell you that this is the largest ground game the NDP in Alberta have ever run. So thousands of volunteers out nonstop. I think we were very targeted in the seats that we're going after. I mean, to Dwayne's comment, the path to an NDP majority, there's a number of seats that have to turn. Our path is a little more narrow, but the campaign has been extremely focused from day one. And I do think that having some high-profile former PC cabinet ministers endorsing Rachel and the NDP is there to give Albertans, people who have formerly voted for the PC party, almost that it's okay to vote NDP in this election because Danielle Smith and the UCP are not the former PC dynasty.
Leila, what have you seen in terms of trying to get people out to vote for each party?
Well, what's been really interesting in this one was seeing, because UCP has quite bench strength coming out of government, and seeing those ministers and seeing all of them actually really stepping outside of their ridings where they knew that they had strength and coming in and helping out with other ridings. So that was really, really wonderful to see. To speak about the endorsements, I think the important thing about endorsements isn't necessarily the endorsement itself, but it boosts the morale and it boosts the strength and the capacity of the parties that are running. I know seeing Harper come out and endorsing Ms. Smith is huge because he's a huge friend of Jason Kenney. So having him come out and do that, I thought it was really important to see that happen.
Well, it's still early, as we know, but UCP sitting at 17, NDP 5. Oh, Jason, final word to you as we start to see those results come in.
Yeah, well, look, the narrative has started to take shape. This is going to be, in many ways, a very clear choice for a number of decided voters. The question now is going to, determine, what does the undecided do? And when we're seeing turnout numbers come in, that's what we're going to need to look for. Are they staying home because they're unsatisfied with the options, or are they actually going to lend their vote, or bite their tongue, or hold their nose, whatever anecdote you want to choose, and actually make a decisive choice that's going to determine the outcome in this city and, frankly, the entire election.
And we will get those answers one way or another tonight. We know as those numbers continue to come in here on Alberta Election Night 2023. Scott and Linda.
All right, thanks to Dallas and the panel. I think by now, 37 minutes after the polls closed, we were hoping results would start pouring in. It's more of a trickle or a slow drip at this point in time, but as you can see at the bottom of your screen, UCP leading in 17 ridings, the NDP leading in 5, but again, some of those ridings just with a single vote or a handful in some cases.
And we're going to go to David Aiken now, and you've got some early numbers for Brooks Medicine Hat, which is, of course, Danielle Smith's riding.
Beautiful Brooks Medicine Hat, absolutely, right down the south part of the province. And right now, the UCP, Danielle Smith is your candidate, has 13 votes compared to Gwendolyn Dirks for the NDP's 9 votes. And hey, folks, let's talk about the Alberta Party for a little bit. I don't think the Alberta Party is going to be a big factor tonight, but Barry Morishita, the Alberta Party leader, he's got 8 votes. So it's 13, 9, 8. UCP, NDP, Alberta Party down there in Brooks Medicine Hat. Let's take a look at some other places where things may not be this way by the end of the night, or they might be. How about this? In Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul, right now, Caitlin Blake, New Democrat, leading in Bonnyville, Cold Lake, St. Paul. She has 49 votes. Scott Sear has 12 votes. Now, we only have 3 polls reporting out of 27, but right now, the NDP, that's one of the seats in their column. As we look at that bottom number, UCP 17, NDP 5. Also, we go down to the southern part of the province again, sort of bounce around, where Kevin Von Tegum has 19 votes for the NDP. He is leading. The Mayor of Claresholm, Chelsea Petrovic, she just has 2. And the Liberals, 1 vote there. So that is Livingston McLeod. We're putting that in the NDP column. Let's take a look at those big city races again. This could be a change that the NDP is hoping for. I see orange right now, the first orange riding, the first NDP riding in Calgary, and it's Calgary Climb. There it is right there. Lizette Tejada, she has 3 votes versus Jeremy Nixon, the cabinet minister, has 1 vote. So 3-1 in Calgary Climb. It's hockey night in Canada. Can we use that here on Global? I guess we can. 3-1 is the score right now in Calgary Climb. All elections authorities across the country are trying to figure out how to count ballots differently. And one of the things they're struggling with often is they can't get people to work at ballot counting centers. I think after tonight, Elections Alberta is going to probably go back to the drawing board. Scott, what did you say it was? 40 minutes now into election night, and we're 3-1 in the city, in a major riding in the province's biggest city.
Yeah, it's quite a process. Well, now we see a big jump in the numbers on our ticker there. UCP, oh my goodness.
Well, we don't know how many, again.
As soon as I complained, that was it. Here, Elections Alberta says, okay, what do we got?
All it takes is David Aiken talking about something and change happens right away. Okay, so yeah, as you can see at the bottom of your screen there, 34 seats, the UCP leading in right now, NDP with 14. But again, we'll have to go back to David in a few minutes just to make sure how many votes are actually in those different ridings. All right, right now we're going to go to Safe Kaiser at NDP headquarters. And Safe, you've got a guest that was a big part of the NDP strategy for this election.
Absolutely, Scott. So this is Sally Hauser. She's the NDP strategist. She's been a big part of this. Sally, we are seeing the UCP leading a little bit now. What could you have done differently, you feel, to get those early votes?
Well, we're talking about early results as opposed to early votes now, and it's still early days. You get some smaller polling stations come in. A key thing we're looking at right now is when do the advance polls actually get put into the count. The NDP had an excellent get out the vote effort in the advance polling, so I wouldn't read too much into the early results here tonight. It's still very early days. What we do know is that the NDP had an extremely strong on-the-ground game, what we call it, in terms of making sure we identify those supporters and getting them out to the polls. Much more motivated vote, I believe, than the UCP had, which was a little more reserved. You had some progressive conservatives, didn't know how they were going to vote, making their minds up. So, in terms of getting people out to vote, I think the NDP's done a pretty good job here tonight, but, there's not much more to say except for the counting at this point.
Perfect. That's Sally Hauser, NDP strategist. Scott, Linda.
Thanks so much, Safe. And again, we want to tell our TV viewers and radio listeners that the path to power, 44 seats for a majority in Alberta, 44, and we're inching there. However, it is still very early. And as David's been telling us, a lot of these are just 1, 2, 3 votes. So this is leading at this moment in time.
Bit of a bizarre start to election 2023 here in Alberta. We are going to take a quick break as we continue to wait for more results to come in. Stay with us. You're watching Decision Alberta.
Welcome back to Decision Alberta, Global's province-wide election coverage.
We are coming to you live on all platforms tonight, on television, on Chorus Radio, and online as we continue very slowly to see some of these numbers come in from a number of polls across the province. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, UCP leading in 42 different ridings, the NDP in 22. Let's go to David Akin now, though, because David, you've been doing this for, 20 years now, election coverage. You haven't seen anything quite like this where so many different polls across the province have just a single vote.
And I think a lot of our viewers who've watched elections for 22 years might say, well, you've got the UCP leading in 42, you've got the NDP back at 22. Isn't it about time we started talking about a government? You only need 44 for a majority. It's just impossible. Let's take a look at the map of Edmonton right now, and here's why it's impossible. This is Casey Maddu's riding, Edmonton Southwest. Casey Maddu is down by 3 votes. Folks, this is a long way from being over because we just don't have polls. We don't have any real voting ballast in, if you will. There's not an economy. So Edmonton Southwest, sure enough, we got to put that in the NDP's column, but Nathan Ip has a 3-vote lead over Casey Maddu. And it's like that all across the province. In riding after riding, we're seeing 1 vote here, 2 votes there, and that's why at the end of the day, the UCP's up 42. Here's, as I say, here's the current riding map, and a vote is a vote. There's no question if this is it. The NDP, this is the NDP in 2019 in Edmonton. You see all that orange. This is 2019. Now we're looking at today, right now, 2023. Here's Edmonton West Henday, and this was one of the closest ridings in 2019. Slava Kravchenko is running for the UCP. He is leading with 4 votes. 0 votes for Brooks Arcan-Paul. Brooks Arcan-Paul works at Alexander First Nation. He's the council there. Little bio note about Slava Kravchenko. If you're a table tennis fan, Slava is from Moldova, and he was a world-class ping pong player. So if the ping pong vote is in Edmonton West Henday, maybe Slava's got the inside chance. But that's where we're at, folks. To be serious, we just don't have enough votes from Elections Alberta at this point in time. 1 vote here, 4 votes there. But still, the UCP's 42 up, and the NDP's got leading right now in 22. I think we're going to be here for a little while. And probably what will happen, Scott, Linda, is boom, the deluge is going to come in. That's my feeling right now. We're 1 vote, and then it's just going to dump on us very shortly.
I was just going to ask about that, David, so I'm glad you touched on that. Thanks very much, David, at the results board. As we wait for that deluge, that big dump of votes that hopefully we get a little bit sooner, and we can start telling the story of who will form Alberta's next government with a bigger sample size, which is what we need.
Yeah. It takes a little bit of time. We're going to go to Blake Law now, who is at NDP's Calgary headquarters with a guest who's been a long-time, well-known face in Calgary, Calgary City Councillor, longtime MLA Joe Ceci.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Linda. Scott here with Joe Ceci, the NDP candidate for Calgary Buffalo, the former finance minister. Joe, thanks for being with us. We've been hearing some hooting and hollering here in the room. I'm sure we're going to hear more as we come up on the screen. But talking about Calgary and how crucial Calgary is for the NDP, how confident are you in the slate of candidates, and what you've been able to do in the election so far?
Well, I can tell you every one of the candidates we have is a mid to late career person, a person who has had a great career already, built a network, and are coming out to the NDP because they believe in the values, in the leader, in the work we have to do. It's great.
What was different with this election as far as the organization, the ground game in Calgary to get the vote out? Some people are excited to see it on the screen.
I can tell you this election, we have great candidates, like I mentioned. Our leader is solid. She has spent 4 years in government. She has spent 4 years going after the government of the day, and she's the only person with the longevity to be able to kind of share with Albertans what a better future looks like. That's what Rachel Notley's about. That's why I'm running with her. That's why we will win tonight.
Joe Ceci, thanks for this.
Not at all.
Back to you.
Thanks, Blake. Again, we're keeping an eye on the numbers on the screen. Leading UCP 40, NDP 25. But those numbers, they tell a very different story because only very few votes have been counted at this point.
Yeah, we just got this number in to help you understand why we're not going a little further along with talking about who's going to form government. We just found out that in the entire city of Calgary, only 920 votes are actually being tabulated in this system right now. So that is why we are very early in the infancy of the night. Just too few votes to really matter at this point. We are waiting for that big dump of votes to come, and again, hoping it comes soon.
Yeah, so it shows who's leading, but as David's been telling us, it might be by 1, 3, 12 votes.
Yeah.
So we'll keep on that. We're going to go to Dallas Flexog now and our panel at UCP headquarters in Calgary.
As Dwayne was just saying, at some point the fire hose is going to open up and we're going to start seeing those numbers come in fast and furious, and we are ready for that when that happens. But Joe Ceci was just telling Blake at NDP headquarters at the Palace about leadership, and a lot of this campaign did end up on the topic of leadership. What do you make of that, Jason?
Well, look, I think after a tumultuous few years of leadership elections, having a premier that had won a 4-year mandate because they were so unhappy with the PCs being removed from office, now vying for office, it's been about the leaders. And after a pandemic, economic issues and the like, it's going to come down to Danielle Smith and Rachel Notley. Obviously, the campaigns and the parties.
Ground Calgary. David.
Right, and just before we get there, I want to just pop in Camrose, just south of Edmonton, where, that's not that one, it's right over here. Camrose, we have elected, your Global News is projecting that Jackie Lovely will be elected for the United Conservative with 65% of the vote. Jackie Lovely, projected winner for the UCP in Camrose, 3,359 votes. They're apparently able to count them very well in Camrose. New Democrats finishing second right now with 1,300 votes. So I just wanted, because it seems to be so rare that we're able to project someone elected, I wanted to get that in there. But let's go back to Calgary, and I want to go back to one of those ridings we want to look at all night long, Calgary-Acadia. We've got another lead change here. And right now, Diana Batten, the registered nurse, a 5-vote lead. She's got 500 in the bank right now, and that's 5 more than the incumbent, Tyler Shandro, who is at 495. So Calgary-Acadia, we could be here till past 1 in the morning watching that. And as I chatted, it looks like Banff Kananaskis has just flipped. We've been going back and forth here. Miranda Rosen is the UCP incumbent. She has 916 votes. That is a 217 vote lead. That's pretty good on 916 votes over Sarah El-Maligi.
Friends, obviously tonight I come before you with mixed emotions. On one hand, I feel tremendous gratitude and pride in the people of Alberta and those who stood up and put their support behind building a better future. As a movement, we have grown our support in every corner of this province. I'm very pleased that we will be welcoming at least 10 more MLAs to our caucus. Who will form part of the largest official opposition this province has ever seen in its history. And that as a party, we earned the largest percentage of the popular vote in our party's history. So we have achieved tremendous growth and opportunity for our future and for the values that we all share. However, tonight, I also know that we are all very deeply disappointed in the overall result. We had all hoped for a different one. Moments ago, I called Premier Danielle Smith to concede the race, and I congratulated her party on their victory. To all those of you, to those who offered their unwavering support, their dedication, and their belief in our vision for Alberta in this election, you are the reason that we fight for what we believe in. And to our candidates all across this province, congratulations on your campaigns, successful or not. You have all demonstrated tremendous leadership. I have spent the last few months being so inspired by your dedication, by your heartfelt commitment to standing up for Albertans without a voice, for your honest belief that we can and will come together to be better. I commend your integrity and your perseverance and your unparalleled work ethic. And I will never, ever, ever stop being deeply grateful for your decision to join our team. So thank you to all of you. And to those new MLAs, I say to you, welcome, congratulations. Get some rest tonight and then get ready to get right back down to work. To my amazing, amazing campaign team, I can't say enough. They are unparalleled in the work and the achievement that they have and that they have done, across the country. They are just unparalleled in their skill. I cannot thank that team enough, and I cannot thank as well our incredible volunteers enough. Your commitment, your hard work, your countless hours of effort have been the absolute backbone of our campaign. You've all shown incredible dedication and passion, and I am forever grateful for your support. And I need to say this as well, where we fell short, the responsibility rests entirely with me. That's fine. That's the joys of being the leader. It's fine. It's a thing. It's part of responsibility and accountability. Those are things we care about here. But I do know that at the same time, we ran a strong, principled campaign, and it was based on our beliefs. And it was based on our desire to create a better future for all Albertans. To my family, these guys, thank you to the four of you for standing by me in this often very crazy journey. Thank you to Ethan and to Sophie for accepting the difference that it has been meaning in their lives for all this time and ultimately turning it into their own pride and their own set of beautiful values that make me very proud. And thank you again. Seems like I'm doing this every 4 years. Thank you again to Lou, my lifelong sounding board. Anywho, lifelong sounding board, sparring partner, and apparently personal cheerleader, but also occasionally for me, all wrapped up into one. And also, Lou, thank you very much for mopping the kitchen floor today. That was awesome. I love you all so much. Now, although we did not achieve the outcome that we wanted, we did take a major step towards it. The unprecedented growth of our party through this campaign is a warm light, one that gives me a lot of optimism for the work to come. My friends, let me be clear, now is not the time to let up. Now is the time to step up. Now is the time for us to do the work that has been asked of us. It is my honor to serve as your leader, and it is my privilege.
Speech there claiming victory tonight, and once again heading back to the legislature as Premier of Alberta.
Yeah, and we are winding down our coverage tonight. So, David, we're going to give you the last final thoughts on what we heard there. That was quite something.
Yeah, it was alternately very nice to hear. Thank Rachel Notley. Nice to hear reach out to all Albertans. Very odd to hear the declaration of war against the federal government in her first minutes on the job, but oh well, that's about it. Anyways, Danielle Smith, congratulations.